Hey, Justin, it's time for your favorite segment of the show. We're talking some golf.
Golf.
I know you love your Canadian golf.
Love Canadian golf. It's on the top of the world right now, Canadian golf.
Yeah.
It's the talk of the town.
But you're not rating Nick Taylor's 72-footer, though.
We talked about the other
top
day.
Canadian moment of all time, like everybody else.
I know you're drinking that Kool-Aid.
No,
let's pump the brakes a little bit. It's not.
No, well, golf's on fire right now. We got the U.S. Open coming up on Thursday, the third major of the year. Nick Taylor's going to be there. I think 7 Canadians in the field, which is tied for the most at the U.S. Open in some time. Let's bring in Pat Mayo of the Mayo Media Network. Anytime we're talking golf, we got to bring in the best of the best. Pat, I'm not going to get you on Canadians right off to start this thing, but the LA Country Club, not a course that's very well known. What can golfers expect and people can expect from this course in the U.S. Open?
Super wide fairways, just at the foothills of Beverly Hills. So it's funny because it's very secluded. I was in the area about 3 weeks ago and just didn't realize there was a giant park 5 minutes away from me that was actually hosting the U.S. Open. You would never. I mean, the Playboy Mansion is on the course, so maybe if you went to the Playboy Mansion, then you would know all about it. It's just off 13. You hear the sounds from beyond the wall, but super wide fairways, but wildly angled that you can head it into the center of the fairway and then boop, down a hill into that huge U.S. Open rough that we're all used to. So there's going to be a lot of strategy off the tee. Obviously, the U.S. Open always favors longer hitters. At least it has each of the past 10 years. But these putting complexes are super strange. They're really big in some spots, but then you have this really mini par 3 that has like a finger part of the green. And they might put a pin up there one day, and it might play like 84 yards or something crazy like that. So there's a lot of different options that we're going to see. There's bad bunkering, the rough is thick, and there are barrancas that run throughout the entire thing. And for those who think that is a Mortal Kombat 2 character rather than something as a part of nature, it's just a ditch that has vegetation, but it's everywhere.
Some of these par 3s, I think there's 5 par 3s, if I'm correct by saying that, on this course. You got one that's playing about 300 yards, 290, and then another that can play between 124 and 75 yards. Like, how do you approach that? If you're a player, one day you're going in, you're hitting into a 300 yard par 3, and the next you're looking at another one that's could be 74 yards.
So Ricky Fowler said with certain pin positions on that short one that he's just going to lay up in front of the green, tip it up and make par because the risk reward just isn't worth going for, because if you're long on that short one, it's like a triple bogey. The longer one itself isn't actually as long as it seems. It's completely downhill. I think it's like 100 yards downhill. It usually has a back wind. And you roll it up. Like, you don't attack the pin from 300 yards away. You hit it to like 250, let it roll up. So when we saw Oak Hill, there was a par 3 that played 263, and a lot of it was like wind in your face, and it was uphill. Guys were taking 3 woods at it. Like, you're going to see a lot of guys hit anywhere between 5 wood and 5 iron, depending on the day and depending on the wind conditions. So it's not as crazy as you'd think. Although if you miss right on that super long par 3, it's absolutely dead, but you're probably making a quad.
Pat, Max Homa actually holds the course record at the LA Country Club. He seems to be a pretty favorite. He's getting a lot of love by the books and stuff this week. What do you think about his chances this week, or who are some of the other not dark horse names kind of that you're looking at to contend this weekend?
Well, Max Homa, myself and most of the golf betting community jumped on this number right after Torrey Pines. I think it was Sunday at Torrey Pines. We were able to grab anywhere between 50 and 75 to 1. Now it's down to 25 or 35 to 1, depending on where you're looking and what book you choose to use. I still like Max Homa. He still has 2 top 10s in his past 3 starts. He's just been horrible at majors in his career is really the thing. The 61 was in a Pac-12 championship. It was 10 years ago, and the course doesn't quite resemble what it did back then. Even Colin Morikawa, who was 4-0 at the 2017 Walker Cup at this course, basically said, it has the bones of what it was that year, but the setup is completely different. I think if Max Homa wins, or at least has a good week, it has nothing to do with shooting a course record. Patrick Cantlay had the record previous to Max Homa at this course, but it's just because this course suits what he does well. He generally plays well in California. He won at Riviera, which has the same designer. He won at Torrey Pines earlier this year. And when Max Homa is at the top of his game, he drives it and putts it amongst the best in the world. The driver has not been there for him over the past 3 months, but maybe some familiarity with the course will suit his eye and he'll have that knowledge. So I still like Max Homa a lot this week. In terms of like real dark horses, if we're going to like triple digits, I think both Chileans, Mito Pereira and Joaquin Niemann from LIV, are absolutely live. At this tournament, Niemann's played great in California in his career. He won at Riviera in an absolute blowout, plays better in harder conditions, and putts better on bent grass than any other surface. And for whatever reason, despite being in the middle of Los Angeles, bent grass greens, Bermuda grass rough. You will not find any course that has those same features that the PGA Tour at least is going to play on inside of California. So those two guys, and even Sahith Theegala, you can get as low as like 70 or as high as like 125, has played this course over 30 times in his career. I prefer the 30 times over the one great round. He's local to California, knows the area very well, knows this course very well. He's having the best year of his career. And we've seen a lot of young players break through at this course over the years.
We're speaking to Pat Mayo. Pat, so this is the first time we're going to have the gathering of LIV players and PGA Tour players in the same place since the announcement of this merger between PGA Tour, LIV, PIF, and whoever else is involved there. Do you think the news and all the questions and the prodding is going to affect any of these players?
I don't think
come Thursday?
I don't think it's going to be substantially different than what we've seen before, because although the merger is proposed, getting it through the Department of Justice and antitrust rules is going to be a lot more difficult than maybe they think. So I wouldn't bank on this just being a thing that happens. Although now it looks like, regardless of what happens, Rahm is going to leave PGA to go to LIV based on some of the cryptic comments that he has been making so far. But no, I don't think that's really going to be an issue.
Okay, let's talk Rory, the tour spokesperson, if you will. He's obviously struggling to win another major. The last time, I believe, here's 2014, the PGA Championship. Why is he struggling so much to win one of these things again?
Final round performance. I mean, he gets a bad rep. I mean, he has a top 10 at the U.S. Open in the past 4 years. And basically, besides Xander Schauffele and Brooks, like, no one has really played better in this particular event. But that's the issue with Rory. With Brooks, he gets himself into contention at majors. He wins some, he loses some, but it's like, oh yeah, the major time shows up. Brooks Koepka, you got to watch out for him. And he wins one, then he loses three, and then he'll win another one. Like, no one called him a gagger when Jon Rahm won the Masters and he blew it. I mean, he did come and win the next one, but he doesn't get painted with that label for whatever reason, despite having won 4 majors. Although, like you said, it's been 9 years since he's won one. Rory is there on Sunday in every single major. He's there on Sunday in every single tournament. He's kind of the product of his own undoing, because you don't really think of, oh man, Jon Rahm, when he's not playing well, he's like 30th place and no one really thinks about him. So that doesn't get held against him. Yeah. What gets held against Rory is, oh, he came 4th.
Pat, Canada Golf is officially back on the map following Nick Taylor's win at the Canadian Open on Sunday. There's 7 Canadians in the field here at the U.S. Open. Corey Connors right now has the best odds. Looking at the field of Canadians, who do you expect to have the best showing this week in L.A.?
None of them? Connors, maybe? It's probably going to be Mac
on the top Canadian market, Pat.
Canada Golf was back before last week. Canadians have had 3 wins coming into the Canadian Open last week. This just turns out to be the only event that Canadians seem to pay any attention to. So yeah, Nick Taylor is great and all. That's fine. He's won in California before. He won at Pebble Beach. Could they be competitive? We've seen Mac Hughes play in a final group on Saturday at the U.S. Open. That was at Torrey Pines, of course, where he really he shouldn't have been in contention. Then he hit it into a tree and went away. Connors has the best track record of all these guys in terms of major championships and being relatively competitive. I don't think he's going to win. Like, if you were to make a bet on a Canadian this week, it would probably be Connors top 10 or Pendrith top 30, because he kind of fits that mold, along with Taylor Montgomery and Wyndham Clark and a lot of these younger players who mash it off the tee, although Pendrith has done more of his best work at shorter courses rather than longer courses. But at his best, he drives the ball amongst the top 15 percentile in terms of distance on tour, and he actually can be a really good putter. The approaches and chipping is non-existent, which is a weird theme for a lot of Canadian players. They just can't chip, which really makes no sense, because in the winter time, all you got to really do, you can't go outside and get to the course. You can chip indoors, you can putt indoors. None of these guys can chip or putt. It's really bizarre.
And Nick Taylor, basically, he almost threw that away at the Canadian Open. Let's not forget that. Well, Tommy did too. It was a bit of a disaster.
I mean, if you had told me that Tommy was paid off to take the L, I'd believe it based on the way he played.
Oh my, it was a disaster. He missed so many good putts. Okay, one more question. I gotta ask you this. When it comes to Phil Mickelson, he's in a major. He looked pretty good at the Masters. I'll be honest, I haven't been watching him live, so I don't know how well he's actually doing. But what chances do you give him of actually potentially completing the Grand Slam this week?
I don't know, 0.0001%. So he's playing, so he has a chance.
Right. You don't see him maybe contending on Sunday? No chance.
He'll have to make all of his putts, which is virtually impossible to do. And just, I mean, he had a great Masters. He had the great final day that was completely unexpected.
Yeah.
But with the way that he's been, I mean, he popped up and won the PGA Championship 2 years ago out of nowhere after being non-competitive the rest of the year. So maybe it's one of those lucky weeks where Phil's got it going. But I mean, he has a far better chance of missing the cut than making the cut. So I'd say his to-win odds are pretty low.
Yeah, plus 25,000 as I hear see on DraftKings. Okay, before we let you go, your best plays for the week.
Top 3 plays for me. I have bet on Jon Rahm to win this tournament. Now, all the talk is about Scheffler and how he can't putt. Well, spoiler, Jon Rahm is Scotty Scheffler, but he can putt. That's why he's won, let me check, 4 times already this year, including the Masters. And I believe it's an 85% top 20 rate in the state of California in his career as a professional. So Jon Rahm, he's just, everyone wants to talk Rory's sucking and Brooks is back and Scotty can't putt, but what if he does putt? How about just Jon Rahm? 12-1, you can find that pretty easily. I like Cam Smith a lot, although I mentioned everything about driving. Cam Smith cannot drive the ball to save his life. But these are wide fairways. Maybe you can hit into the right part. But once you get off the tee, Cam Smith is the best player in the world. So if he can somehow find a way to be okay off the tee, the elements that this course presents really, I mean, there's going to be a lot of 5 to 10 foot par putts, and there's no player on earth you'd rather have standing over a 7-foot par putt than Cam Smith. Just the way it is. So if it becomes more difficult than people think, I think he's very live. And I'm going to throw it back to Joaquin Niemann, whether it's top 10, top 20, whatever you want to play. You can get him 125 to 1 to win. You can get him 8 to 1 to finish inside the top 10. You can get him 3 to 1 to finish inside the top 20. I just think this course meets all the specific criteria that you want from him. And he's been playing some decent golf in the major champion. He's been playing terrible on live and good in the majors. Really bizarre stuff.
Pat, thank you for this. Really appreciate it, man. Have a good week.
No problem. Have a great weekend, guys.
All right. Thank you. That's Pat Mayo of the Mayo Media Network.